All right, 5 types of fire. Class A, B, and C are the most common. Class D is flammable metals fires. Think aluminum powder, magnesium, very flammable. Sodium, extremely flammable. Sodium will burst into flame in contact with water and I think sometimes even air, depending on the humidity content in the air. And then Class K fires are fires in cooking systems. I've graded those out because the likelihood of you guys running into those is like just above 0, right? So we're not going to worry about that. But Class A, B, C, D, K, what type of fire extinguisher do you need? We're going to look at that because that's pretty much going to be your fire protection, fire extinguishment, fire prevention system. These are the typical fire extinguishers that are available. All right, we have foam. Think of pressurized water can with dish soap in it, also known as light water in firefighting circles. Wet chemical is a specialty fire extinguisher. Plain water, everybody knows water puts fire out. Notice that the arrows keep pointing to little indicators that say not safe for use, right? Do not use for this. Do not use for this. There's your dry powder fire extinguisher, the one you should be using. And then commonly we'll see these, the carbon dioxide fire extinguisher, but notice also that it also has a do not use box in there. This one does not, right? So that's a clue that this is probably the fire extinguisher we want. So if we look at these fire extinguishers here, here's a foam fire extinguisher, and it says on here, do not use on electrical fires, do not use on flammable metal fires. The reason is it's basically liquid, it's water, with layman's terms, a form of dish soap in there. The dish soap takes the water and allows it to penetrate the fuel better. Also, it can be used on flammable liquids fires because it'll spread a film of soap over the fuel that wants to off gas, and it'll prevent that gas from coming out. And when you see aircraft firefighting, when they douse an airplane and they cover it with white foam, that's what they're doing. They're just covering it with soapy suds to allow the that film to be formed over the flammable liquid and to soak into the fuel. But don't use on electrical fires because it's water, and don't use on flammable metal fires. Flammable metal fires burn so hot that they actually take your water, H2O, right, hydrogen and oxygen, and they will break down the water into hydrogen and oxygen and add hydrogen to the fire and add oxygen to the fire, making it burn even hotter. So that's why we don't want to use water on a flammable metals fire. Wet chemical, notice it says don't use it on electrical fires. These are good for cooking oil and cooking fats fires, right? They're effective on ordinary combustibles because it is also water-based, and we use water to put fires out. But don't use these on electrical, don't use them on flammable liquids. There's your water. If you put water on a flammable liquids fire, the flammable liquid is lighter than water. It will float on top of the water, and then the water, as it runs off, will carry that burning fuel away with it, which is why you don't put water, you don't grab your sink sprayer from your kitchen sink and start spraying down the burning frying pan on the stove, because you can cause a splatter effect of that burning oil to start burning other things in the kitchen, and you won't put the fire out. CO2, the key to the CO2 fire extinguisher is this bell-shaped nozzle. If you see one of those, you don't have the right fire extinguisher on this job. Note that it says do not use on wood, paper, ordinary combustibles. Also, don't use it in confined spaces. This fire extinguisher extinguishes fire by pushing oxygen away and out from the burning area. If you're in there, that's less oxygen for you to breathe. And because ordinary combustibles tend to smolder, the moment oxygen rushes back into that burning area, the fire reignites. So carbon dioxide fire extinguishers are pretty much just for flammable liquids fires or enclosed spaces that you're not going to enter. Think of like an electrical room. We don't want to throw water in an electrical room, right? But if we throw a whole bunch of carbon dioxide into that electrical room, will starve it from oxygen without damaging the electrical equipment and without creating electrical arc with the water. And there's the one we want, the powder fire extinguisher. Note it says safe for use on wood, paper, fabric fires, on flammable liquids fires, on gas fires, and on electrical fires. If you spray this on something electric that's running and on fire, you won't get an arc back at you. This will just start putting the burning material out. So the next question we have to ask is, how big of a fire extinguisher do we need? And we see big ones and medium-sized ones and little ones, and very often that's what I see, the little one, especially on workers' trucks, because that's the extinguisher that is required on a commercial truck. Minimum 1A, 10B fire extinguisher, the one that comes with the truck, probably. Often that is all I see on the job site. And when guys go out to buy fire extinguishers, they say, I need a fire extinguisher, and they find the cheap one. All right. Look on your fire extinguisher. There's a label. On that label, it will tell you what the rating is. A good powder fire extinguisher is going to be rated for class A, B, and C fires. And here we see this one rated 1A, 10B, C. And we covered this in the last presentation. What does this mean? Each A is equivalent to 1 1/4 gallons of water. Your gallon jug of milk, your gallon jug of spring water in the refrigerator, right? 2A is equivalent to 2.5 gallons of water. And the reason I throw that up there is that is the smallest fire extinguisher that is acceptable for use in construction, according to OSHA. So OSHA says you must have at least a 2A fire extinguisher and at least a 10B fire extinguisher if you have flammable liquids. So that's why we say we want to see a minimum 2A, 10B, C fire extinguisher. But 2A equivalent to 2.5 gallons of water, the question we ask is, how much fire can you put out with a 5-gallon bucket of water? So just something to consider. Each B is equivalent to the square footage of a flammable liquid spill. 10B, 10 square feet, right? That's equivalent to about a 3x3 area. So if you have a flammable liquid spill greater than 3 foot by 3 foot, and it starts on fire, a 10B will not be enough fire extinguisher to put that out. C just means that it can be used on an energized electrical equipment fire. So we want to see A, B, C, because those are the 3 most common exposures that you're going to run into in construction. If you're able to shut off the production of electricity, then your electrical fire just becomes an ordinary Class A fire, and now you can use water on it. Still not a great idea, because how sure are you that that electricity is really shut off? But once the electrical energy is done, it just becomes a regular fire. Responsibilities for the guys at the job site. Monthly inspections need to be done by the crew. Annual inspections need to be done by a qualified inspector. So in this case here, we have a tag from 2016 showing that it was inspected by a qualified inspector in 2016. And on the backside, you can see that monthly, a crew member is inspecting the fire extinguisher to make sure that it's there, make sure that it's in good condition, make sure that it has not been used, right? And we want to make sure that it is available. Also, that it's the right extinguisher and the right size. Where should they be located? They should not be located being used as door chocks, holding doors open, weighting things down. They should pretty much be static, so that where you saw it yesterday is where you can find it today when you have that emergency. And so you will see signs like that fire extinguisher sign pointing down. If the fire extinguisher is not clearly visible because the view is obstructed by other equipment and materials, then a sign should be posted above that fire extinguisher telling you, hey, it's over here. Just come around this, machine, and it'll be right there. These pylons can be placed in strategic locations throughout the floor, and it gives you a good place to put that fire extinguisher. It's highly visible and easily accessible. Fire extinguishers should be placed at each exit and at each stairway. They should be no more than 100 feet away, and if you're doing hot work, they must be immediately accessible. There is no OSHA definition for immediately accessible. We define it like I have a fire. I'm going to turn around and there it is. I grab it and I can get to work. 10 feet away would probably be the max. But there is no specific definition that says your fire extinguisher must be no more than 20 feet away when doing hot work.